Hello and welcome to our webinar. What is a reserve study and why does our association need one? This is a recorded version of the original webinar presented by David Rothbart, our in-house reserve studies specialist. Our agenda will cover those two questions. We'll talk about the proposal and why that's important, cover the scope of services for a reserve study, go over the client review process and possible revision process, and finally, discuss our funding method. Reserve Studies is in essence a planning tool designed to help the board anticipate and prepare for the property's major repair and replacement projects. By understanding what the most important funding needs are for the community, the Reserve Study will help to create a stable financial foundation with sufficient cash and a stable contribution rate that is evenly distributed, and the end result will be financial responsibility. Some key components would include replacement of the roof on the buildings, capital painting, and resurfacing of the roadways. Of course, a reserve study is not limited to these components. Each community is unique, and because of that, the designated reserve component assets will vary in quantity, life valuation, importance to the community, and financial allocation towards them. A reserve study includes two main sections: a physical analysis of reserve component assets and a financial analysis. A reserve study, through its financial mapping, will help the community have an accurate accounting of reserve funds, financially prepare for capital expenses, schedule timely repair and replacement of common components, avoid special assessments and loans, and ultimately help to maximize property values. Not electing to perform a reserve study, whether mandated by state regulation or not, and underfunding reserves is a bad decision. The association will have an increased risk of special assessment, deferred maintenance of reserve fund components, ineligibility for federal loans if needed, the possibility of decreased property values, and an increase in association board liability. Remember, expenses will always occur. Delay in action makes it worse. The unit owners get the bill, and ultimately, it's the association board's responsibility. The importance of the proposal is that it sets the parameters of what we will and will not provide in the study process and the finished report. The proposal outlines the physical analysis, which consists of an inventory list of common components and assigns useful life expectancies to each of the components based on their current condition. The proposal also outlines the financial analysis, which assigns future replacement costs to each of the components and then recommends a funding plan to ensure that the necessary funds will be available as the expenses occur. The reserve study proposal is designed to outline the parameters of the study so you know exactly what you're getting. The Level 1 study will be performed in compliance with the CIA, or Community Associations Institute, National Reserve Study Standards, as well as applicable state guidelines. National standards ensure that whether we are performing a study in Virginia or Texas, you can be assured that our team of experts will deliver a reserve study that not only is a quality report, but is one that will be a practical guide for the homeowner association and/or condo association for managing their reserves. It'll be necessary for us to have a property description with emphasis on the community location, what the community consists of, like buildings, roadways, amenities, and things like that, and when the property was built. Our intention is to make this reserve study easy to read and understand. When you receive the study, take the time to review it carefully and make sure the main ingredients, the component information, are complete and accurate. If there are any inaccuracies, please inform us immediately so we can revise the report. Once you feel the report is an accurate tool to work from, use it to help establish your budget for the upcoming fiscal year. The reserve allocation makes up a large portion of the total monthly assessment, and this report should help you determine the correct amount of money to go into the reserve fund. Additionally, the reserve study should act as a guide to obtain proposals in advance of pending projects. This will give you an opportunity to shop around for the best price available. The reserve study should be readily available for real estate agents, brokerage firms, and lending institutions, and for potential future homeowners. As the importance of reserves becomes more of a household term, people are requesting homeowners associations to reveal the strength of the reserve fund prior to purchasing a condominium, townhome, or any property that belongs to an association. Unfortunately, there is a misconception that these reports are good for an extended period of time, since the report has projections for the next 30 years. Well, just like any major line item in a budget, the reserve study should be reviewed each year before the budget is established by your property manager. Invariably, some assumptions have to be made during the compilation of this analysis. Anticipated events may not materialize, and unpredictable circumstances could occur. Deterioration rates and repair replacement costs will vary from causes that are unforeseen. Earned interest rates may vary from year to year. These variations could alter the content of the reserve study. Therefore, this analysis should be reviewed annually, and a property inspection should be conducted at least once every 3 years. A reserve component is an item that is the responsibility of the association to maintain. It has a limited useful life, for reserve purposes less than 30 years, a predictable remaining useful life, typically occurs on a cyclical basis that exceeds 1 year, and costs above a minimum threshold amount. An operating expense is typically a fixed expense that occurs on an annual basis, as well as general repairs and maintenance. During the site visit, and when writing the reserve study, we visually assess the reserve components, perform a life valuation on the reserve components, review the existing financial records and status of the association, compile a complete inventory of the reserve components, and set up a schedule for repair and replacement along with attaching the cost to cure. This evaluation and package study is performed to CAI standards of practice. The site visit is conducted based on the common areas as reported by the client. From our site visit, we identify those common area components that we've determined require reserve funding. Based on information provided by the client, client's vendors, and our assessment of the components, we have developed a component list and life and cost estimates. Estimated life expectancies and life cycles are based on conditions that were readily accessible and visible at the time of the inspection. We did not destroy any landscape work, building walls, or perform any methods of intrusive investigation during the site visit. In these cases, information may have been obtained by contacting the contractor or vendor that has worked on the property in the past. And we have assumed any and all components have been properly built and will reach normal, typical life expectancies. In general, a reserve study is not intended to identify or fund for construction defects. What are the gray areas of maintenance items that are often seen in a reserve study? One of the most popular questions revolves around major maintenance items, such as painting the buildings or seal coating the asphalt. You may hear from your property manager or accountant that since painting or seal coating is not replacing a capital item, then it cannot be considered a reserve issue. However, it's the opinion of USI Commercial that these items are considered to be major expenses that occur on a cyclical basis. Therefore, it makes it very difficult to ignore a major expense that meets the criteria to be considered a reserve component. And once explained in this context, many accountants and property managers tend to agree and will include any expenses such as these examples as a reserve component. The study will include all common elements for which reserves are to be accumulated. We carefully help you to determine which components belong in the study. USI Commercial wants to be sure that the components included are true line item elements that warrant reserve funding. We carefully analyze components and elements to determine whether they are true reserve items or would better be applied to general funding. Some factors that determine whether or not components are limited useful life, predictable remaining life, and above average minimum costs are based on the association's financial threshold. Some of the most common components are roofing, capital painting, asphalt, exterior cladding, and large exterior and interior renovations. The purpose of the scope of the study is to be used as a tool to assist the association in developing a funding plan for future repair or replacement of major common area components and elements. Now, if available and applicable, we review and conduct the following. We look at site plans, building plans, and other collateral documents that you may provide us. We look at the reserve funding financials that were provided. We compile and inventory all of the common components and elements. We conduct an on-site visual survey of common components and elements. We provide an estimate of remaining useful life of common components and elements. We include photographs of various areas and systems on the property, and we provide replacement cost estimates and a funding plan. Unless otherwise requested, we'll assume a 30-year time frame for the study. Now, it should be noted that regular updates to the study will be necessary due to changes in property and building conditions, changes in funding status, and fluctuation in component and inflation costs. We generally recommend a Level 2 update between 3 and 5 years of the initial study. The most successful studies are those which are done in a closely interactive relationship with the client and its management professionals. A comprehensive on-site evaluation by an experienced project manager and on-site reserve analyst will be conducted, and the resulting data compiled and analyzed. At that time, a preliminary report will be submitted to the property manager for review and comment. Based on their input, the report will be revised if necessary. It should be noted that we request revisions to be submitted within 60 days of the date of the preliminary report, and all changes should be performed at the same time to avoid additional charges. USI Commercial utilizes the cash flow funding method with a full funding objective. By combining the two, the weaknesses of both funding methods are eliminated, setting up the association for success by using this reserve study in an effective manner, ensuring that the association has sufficient capital reserves to pay for expenditures as they're forecasted. Whenever possible, the known costs of reserve items have been factored into this report. Known costs are provided to USI Commercial in the form of invoices which the client provides, qualified contractor proposals, or directly from the client. If exact known costs are not available, present costs have been estimated by the reserve analyst's observations and experience, USI Commercial's proprietary internal database of costs, and industry-recognized cost reference guides such as the National Construction Estimator, RS Means, and the Engineering News Record Cost Book. In addition, every reserve item has been given an estimated remaining useful life to determine future costs. If applicable, interest earned on accumulated reserve funds and taxes on the reserve interest are also calculated. Initial reserve funds are consumed as expenses occur until fully depleted, reducing annual reserve payments to a minimum. This concludes our presentation. Thank you for taking the time to listen. If you have any questions regarding our services or the study itself, we're always more than happy to help. You can contact David Rothbart by email at drothbart@usinspect.com or call us at 888-225-3755.